Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Data Show. I'm your host, Chris Greco. For the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about different types of data, how to analyze it, how to collect it, all the different things that go along with that. Today, we're going to be talking about word cloud. And it's interesting how everybody seems to think that data is just numeric, and that's not true. Data can be also textual. And you can do sensitivity analysis and some other pretty complex aspects when you talk about words, especially context within speech and those types of things. What we're going to talk about today is just using something called word cloud, which is free, and it's really a great tool actually to use. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some speeches and we're going to go through word cloud and see if we can do some analysis with those speeches. So first I thought, I got to get something that the public is both aware of and also accessible to the public. And it's interesting because the Congressional Record is a publication that is available to anybody who wants it. And basically, the congressional, all you have to do is put in Congressional Record in your search, and there it is right here. So when I went to the Congressional Record, and you can, well, I'll just do it right here. Go to the Congressional Record, it comes up with the current date, and you can see everything that happened in the Senate, everything that was said, and everything that happened in the House of Representatives, and even extension remarks, any types of further remarks, those types of things. These things are transcribed. Um, Now I have heard, and that's something. Every time I say I've heard, that's not based on facts. So I'm not even going to say anything. But at this point, transcriptions are transcriptions. You have to assume that every word is being taken down, and nothing has changed in the transcription. I don't know if that's altogether true, but certainly we'll work with that assumption. So basically, what I did was I went to the Senate. I had, they started with a Congressional Record. Here, the prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, or reservation of leader time, conclusion of morning business, and then all kind of different things, recognition of minority leader, all these things. So what I did was I went to the House of Representatives and I took a look at that one. And in that one, that's even more interesting because now you have House met at noon, was called to order by the Speaker pro tem, uh, designates for Speaker pro tem, morning hour debate, recognizing the service of Honorable Bud Schuster, your Speaker or your seniors. And I thought, that's interesting. So I decided to go to that. So I went to your Speaker, your seniors, and basically it's by Ms. Crockett, who is from Texas. I'm also assuming that Ms. Crockett is a Democrat, and the reason is because now that's a bad assumption because I should actually look that up. So I should look that up. Let me just look up to see Crockett from Texas, House of Representatives, just to make sure that I'm not doing it. Represent, there we go. Texas 30, join leaders from the pro-choice caucus. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett, here we go. 30th Congressional District, political party, Democratic. So Jasmine Crockett, Democrat. So that confirms that. And I did this from the standpoint that a lot of people make assumptions, and they're not facts. In my opinion, three words that I think it's interesting, like, I don't like blank, I don't like X, I don't like Y, I don't like this person, whatever. If they preface it, in my opinion, I don't like that. So it's, I don't like them, in my opinion. That makes it all the more palatable to other people, to me especially, because kind of, well, I will respect your opinion. If you don't like that, okay, I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. If you don't like it, you don't like it. So anyway, so we know now that that's that is Ms. Crockett is in fact a Democrat from Texas. So, I was going to read through this and I thought, something, this would be a perfect opportunity to do a word cloud. So what I did was I went to word cloud and I basically copy and pasted the the congressional representatives' words into word cloud. And this is wordcloud.online. And it's free, right? And it's interesting because all you do is you should literally copy and paste. You paste it in here, boom, put it in there, and then you generate the word cloud. And when you generate the word cloud, this is what appears. And it really is interesting because basically it talks about speaker, it talks about senior, uh, bill. So those are the three words that appear the most in that speech: speaker, senior, and bill. And a lot of people might say, oh, talking about retirement. Well, that's way down here. That's really small here. Assistance is kind of big. Government, kind of small, but not as small as retirement is. Hungry, people, policy, continent, work. All these different things. Crockett is here. I mean, so there's different things here that you can sit back and go, well, not even reading the speech, I can assume, and again, assumption's bad, but I can assume that this had something to do with the Speaker of the House, seniors, and a bill. So, not sure what the bill had to do with, but it had to do with seniors, and it had to do with Speaker, the Speaker. So it's interesting, and the title is really interesting from that standpoint. But this is pretty cool. You can do a lot of things with this, and I like it because it is, all you have to do is literally cut and paste. So let's do another one. We're going to do another one here, just to, again. So let's go back and see what we have here. Honor Life Service Sergeant Neil Horn, recognizing National and Travel and Tourism Week. Okay, so let's talk about that. National Travel and Tourism Week. So here we go. Speaker, gentleman from Florida, Mr. Bean. So let's see what this has. So we're just gonna take it. The problem is this may not be the whole speech, but we'll go ahead and copy that. We'll put that in word cloud here, and we'll generate the word cloud. So what do we have here? County, medical, Duval, Nassau, tourism, Florida. So county is the one word that's used a lot. Florida is used a lot. Tourism, health, recognize, anniversary, week, physician, society, golf. So you can see that a lot of these things are, you try to put it together. It has something to do with Florida, something to do with tourism. Nassau County Nassau is mentioned. Uh, you know, Medical is mentioned. Duval is mentioned. So there's a lot of words you can kind of pull out there and kind of figure out. Okay, this is the thing that happens. So that's fine with that. But what about let's talk about something that is a little bit more interesting. Let's talk about speeches. So, I mean, the one thing that we always talk about is John F. Kennedy, right? So let's go to John F. Kennedy speeches, and the JF. It's really fantastic. His historical speeches at JFK Library. So all I did literally is put in JFK and speeches, and it usually takes a second to come up. But basically, what'll happen is it'll uh, it'll come up as these speeches. So let's talk about the City Upon a Hill speech. It's given in January 1961. So what we're going to do is we're going to his speeches. This is so we view the transcript. So we're going to view the transcript of this, and what I'm going to do is literally I'm just going to take this. Like I say, well, I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take it and copy and put it into word cloud. Okay, and we'll just generate the word cloud from that. Oop. Yeah, okay, good. So what do we have here? Man, big letters, Massachusetts. State, great, courage, historic, year, Kennedy, Bay, mistake. So a lot of things that John, John talked, there's a lot of John in there. Trust, the city upon the hill. And I have no idea. I'm sorry, but I just don't know what that has to do with. But basically, you can kind of get an idea as to what this speech is about just from taking a look at this and taking a look at the different aspects. And it's free, right? Wordcloud.online. But it takes text and it takes textual aspects and throwing it into a kind of numeric aspect, which word applies the most to whatever that is, speech, anything that you want to do. So, I mean, you can do this with speeches from not too savory characters too. Do speeches from dictators, do speeches. You can do speeches from Putin. I mean, interestingly enough, you can compare two speeches. So you could compare two speeches here. Let's say you wanted to compare two speeches of Putin, right? So you compare, Putin's speeches, and what we're going to do is we'll compare two speeches, and the Putin, and all you have to do is put in Putin speeches, right, and it'll come up. They'll come up, and so what they'll do is they'll say, and it's interesting. So you put in, it'll come up as the Russian actually. So April 25th. Let's talk about. So I'm trying to go all the way back to. Let's go to April 5th, 2023, Security Council meeting. So let's do that and see what he talks about there. So what we're going to talk about is, or what we're going to see is the speech he gave to the Security Council on April the 5th. And these speeches are pretty long-winded. I just got to tell you, they just can't seem to go on and on. And I want to make sure that all I get is the speech of Mr. Putin, because sometimes they'll bring in another. Here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and I'm going to put this in here, and we're just going to take Mr. Kennedy's speech out of there, and we're going to put in Mr. Putin's, and we're going to generate the. There we go. So let's take a look at this for a second. And what do we see here? Region, new, law. Look how big security is here. Security, situation, people, Russian. So I notice he talks about Russian people, right? Country, stand, service. You can see where, I mean, agency. So you can see a lot where he talks about region and law, right? And how those interplay. And I think that's important, and it's something that we all need to take a look at from that standpoint. But what about Putin's speech early, right? So let's take a look at Putin's speeches. Let's say 2014. So because that was about the time the Crimean crisis happened, right? So what we're going to do is the Nation did a good job on this. They brought up. I put Putin's speeches. Putin's Crimean speech, right? Fifth column, sounds national. The Russian leader sounds nationalistic tones and warns of U.S. support for a fifth column inside Russia. So the full text of the English of Putin's area. So let's see if it part of Russia. Putin says. So let's actually get the full text in English, because I think that's important. So Prague Post. Okay, October 18, President, dear friends, interesting. Here we go. Federation Council members to understand everything. So let's see what he said in 2014 about this. And about Bolshevik Revolution. So he does. But again, his speeches are long speeches. Look at this thing. Gosh darn. And so we're gonna do as much as we can here. Okay. Can copy it, can put it in Word. And let's see what happens. So it's 2014. We're going to generate the word cloud again. Let's see what we have. Yep. And there we go. So text too long. All right. Here we go. So let's just take half the speech, right? So we're only going to take half the speech right from the beginning, and we're just gonna do about half. Let's see if we can get it that. There we go. Good enough. I mean, this is, again, we're sampling this, right? When we think about that, I always talk about sampling, and the sampling we're doing is not a random sample. So very, very important to understand. It's not a random sample. So we may be having some issues here. Let me see if it'll do it now. Okay. So and now what we're going to do is, again, okay. Let's try one more time. Okay. What we'll do is we'll make sure this word cloud online is not, there we go. Now we'll try it again. Generate the word cloud. And what do we have? Let's find out. Russia, Ukraine, Crimea. But look at Russia and Ukraine. Almost the same amount of space, same amount of word size. Crimea, Crimean, people, Sevastopol, which is Crimea, border, history, republic. I mean, all these things you take a look at and you go, well, it's got something to do with Russia and Ukraine. It's got something to do with Crimea, of course. Sevastopol, Ukrainian, Russians. Notice Ukrainian is bigger than Russians. I thought that was interesting. Population, communist, way down here. It's very, very, very small. So these are the types of things that you take a look at and you can see, how these things generate from the standpoint of being able to use the text to come to some type of conclusion about what that speech was about. So there's a lot of things that have to do with that. Now, about gathering data, I think it's very important to understand a couple of things. And first of all, I think, when you collect data, it's very important to start at the beginning. So let's say that a certain politician says something. Oh, one time I was driven to school by my dad. And, when I got out of the car, I saw two men kissing. So you sit back and you go, okay, wow, somebody said that. But then you start realizing a couple things. You say, okay, when was this? So you have to understand, the timing, the time frame of that. So you find out that the politician graduated from high school in 1961. So you know for fact, right? Fact, politician graduated high school 1961. We know that is a fact. So boom, that's a fact. We know that to be a fact. It's put in whatever you want to call it. So we know that. So we start collecting that data. That's how you collect the data. You start to figure out what is fact and what is not fact. Then we sit back and we go, what state was it? Right? What state did this happen in? What state did it happen in? All right, well, it turns out the state was Pennsylvania. It was Pennsylvania. So if graduated in 1961 from Pennsylvania, what were the laws like? What laws existed in Pennsylvania in 1961 having to do with that situation? You know, this is just about trying to get answers to the questions. So then you do that. You figure out, okay, what type of laws existed, and then you find out, okay, what is the probability? Because really, statistics is probability. What is the probability of that situation actually happening? Right? What's the probability of it happening? And it's not like, I'm calling that politician a liar. I'm not saying they misremembered. I'm just, the probability, what is the probability of that event happening based on the location, the year, and the existing laws? Because supposedly, allegedly, this situation happened outside of a school because a politician's parent was dropping him off at high school. So that meant that the situation happened outside the school. If that happened outside the school in full view, would that have been accepted at that point in time in 1961? All you can do is don't know. I mean, the bottom line is this: the facts are the facts. All you can do is say, did the situation happen? It all depends on the recollection of the individual. You can't say it didn't happen because the poss all you can say is that the probability of that situation actually happening is either very low or very high or somewhere in between there. So that's what you're trying to do when you gather data. You're trying to figure out a confidence level as to what exactly happened and why it happened, how it happened, those types of things. And that's what it does do with data collection. And speeches, textual aspects, all that stuff. There are ways of being able to do a good, solid data analytics with just text. But it's also very important that we understand that data collection and data analysis is not just computer work. And I say this every week, and I just stop using computers to somehow prove something. Instead of doing that, use your head. Figure out, what type of information is out there, what can I gather, how do I make it analytical, and what type of analysis do I need to do with it? In some cases, you don't need to go to SAS, you don't need to go to R, you don't need to go to Excel. You can literally do the analysis right up here, right up here, based on facts that you've gathered. And that's the way it goes. And I just love the fact checking aspect on this stuff. And no fact checking was done on this situation at all, which is fine. I don't expect a fact checking to be done on every single situation that is stated by a politician. God forbid that should ever happen. But at the same time, when you're getting people up on a lather, it's best to kind of throttle back and figure out, is this did you know is the probability of this actually happening very low? um, and that would tend to bring in an area of credibility when we talk about this situation. So it was kind of passed up by the media and kind of stated, and then that was it. And I can't blame the media for this because the media was just repeating what the politician said. So I mean, it's not like they sat there and put any credence to it. They basically said, um, "This is what he said." So, I mean, it's words out of somebody's mouth. I don't think anybody can go back. It's called, again, and I say this because a lot of people aren't getting it, is unfalsifiability. Um, and unfalsifiability means I can't go back and prove that false. I've no, unless I have an eyewitness that what 60 years ago, over 60 years ago, is willing to come forward and say, nope, that didn't happen on that day and that, time, whatever it is. Uh, it's unfalsifiable. I can't falsify it. So I mean, you have to sit back and say, well, I guess you got to take the individual's word for it, a politician's word. So I just leave it. I leave it there. So on that note, that's it for today for the data show. If you want anything in particular, or if you're thinking of something and you go, Chris, can we talk about this subject? Please email me. Please email me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Or if I don't know the answer, I'll go out and research it. I'll make sure that you get the answer you need to be able to move on with your analysis, or have any type of learning that you need. If it's a concept or something like that, I'll look it up. I'll demonstrate it online. We'll do it with whatever tool. I'll try to do it with Excel as much as possible. But if you do R, I'll try to do it in R. I'll do it, whatever you want. So I'm going to leave it at that. Please, 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 the one thing that we need to do always is understand, when we talk about the idea of data, is to make sure that we collect as much factual information as we can with as much data as we have to be able to analyze and be able to make educated conclusions from that data. Until next time, this is Chris Greco saying thanks for watching and have a great time and analyzing the data that you collect for what you need. Take care.